This was a public notice in the New York Times. To my lovely wife, M, thank you for 50 wonderful years of married life together, except for the argument we had in 1935, in which you were obviously wrong. Love, husband MB. Hello once again, I'm Don Jackson with the heartbeat of the internet. We have so much to be thankful for, and sometimes we're even willing to proclaim it to the world, as in the case of that New York Times classified. Two of the most important words in the English language are thank you, and yet how often do you hear them said? Maybe not as much as you should. This webcast gives us many reasons to be thankful, and many more reasons to say thank you. This was written by Priscilla Leonard. Happiness is like a crystal, fair and exquisite and clear, broken in a million pieces, shattered, scattered, far and near. Now and then along life's pathway, lo, some shining fragments fall, but there are so many pieces, no one ever finds them all. You may find a bit of beauty or an honest share of wealth, while another just beside you gathers honor, love, or health. Vain to choose or grasp unduly, broken is the perfect ball, and there are so many pieces, no one ever finds them all. Yet the wise, as on they journey, treasure every fragment clear, fit them as they may together, imaging the shattered sphere, learning ever to be thankful, though their share of it is small, for it has so many pieces, no one ever finds them all. Once upon a time, there was a proud man named Carl who loved to ride on his horse through his vast estate and pat himself on the back because of his enormous wealth. One day, he came upon Hans, an old tenant farmer. He was sitting in the shade of a giant oak about to have his lunch. Hans' hands were folded, and he was bowed in prayer. When Hans looked up, he said, "Oh, excuse me, sir, I didn't see you. I was giving thanks for my food and my life." Snorted the rich man, noticing the coarse brown bread and cheese that made up the old man's lunch. "If that were all I had to eat, I don't think I would be giving thanks." "Oh," replied Hans, "it is quite enough for me. But, sir, it's remarkable that I meet you here this morning. I had a strange dream last night." "And what did you dream?" asked the rich man with an amused smile. "There was beauty and peace all around, and yet I could hear a voice saying, 'The richest man in the valley will die tonight.'" "Dreams," cried Carl. "Nonsense." He turned and galloped away. "Die tonight," mused Carl. "It's ridiculous. No use going into a panic." The best thing he thought he could do was forget the old man's dream. He felt fine. Well, now he was not so sure. Maybe he wasn't feeling all too well, after all. He called his doctor. The doctor came over and Carl described Hans's dream, how the richest man in the valley will die this very night. "Sounds like nonsense to me," replied the doctor, "but for your own peace of mind, let me examine you." After he was done, the doctor was all smiles. "Carl, you are as strong and healthy as that horse you ride. There is no way you are going to die tonight." Just as the doctor was closing his bag, a messenger arrived at the door. "Doctor, doctor," he cried, "come quick. It's old Hans. I think he died in his sleep." Being rich has nothing to do with money or possessions. This is a poem by Neil Abbott. It is called What Home Means. It originally appeared in Sunshine magazine. I may not remember all the furniture at home, but I remember that deep, warm chair where one of you would hold me and read me my favorite story. I may not remember the exact shape of the fireplace, but I remember the shape of love on your faces as we popped corn or dreamed there together. I can't recall the number of stairs, but that scary one that creaked, I can still hear. Remember how you'd come catch my hand when I hollered? And the old piano, someone was always ready to play it when I wanted to sing. I may not remember every window in the house, but I remember the one where we watched the baby bluebirds learn to fly. And the stove, and all the crusty brown turkeys, and the library table, and homework, and discovering worlds of adventure in the soft light of home's land. You say it's a drafty, cold house, but all I remember is warmth. You say it needs work, it's getting run down, but to me it's more beautiful than ever, because in the foundation is a devotion that is never cracked, a faith that never questioned the magic of fairies, of books, of popcorn and singing, or of baby bluebirds learning to use their wings and leave the nest as I did. The book Simple Abundance, a daybook of comfort and joy by Sara Brannock, has a cherished place in my library. In it, she has a story about Samuel Clemens that I think is timely. Of course, most people know him by the name Mark Twain, and I quote, Samuel Clemens moved into his dream house with his beloved wife Livy and their 3 daughters in 1874. It was an imposing 19-room, red-brick, Gothic, Victorian mansion in Hartford, Connecticut. Over the next 35 years, Mr. Clemens devotedly decorated, renovated, and lavished so much expense on his house that his passion drove him into bankruptcy. Because of all the love he and his family bestowed on their home, it had a heart and a soul and eyes to see with, and approvals and solicitudes and deep sympathies. It was of us, and we were in its confidence, and lived in its grace, and in the peace of its benedictions. We never came home from an absence that its face did not light up and speak out in eloquent welcome, and we could not enter it unmoved. Sara Brannock, in her book Simple Abundance, a daybook of comfort and joy, concludes by saying, Today, no matter where or how you live, look upon your home through the eyes of love. Walk around the rooms and offer thanks for the walls and roof that safely enclose you and yours. Pause for a moment to consider all the women who have lost their homes through death, divorce, debt, or disaster. Be grateful for the home you have, knowing that at this moment, all you have is all you truly need. End quote. Think about also all the men who have lost their homes as well for some of those very same reasons. This is about a long ago time, and I quote, How did the rural people show their deference to a teacher for a job well done? It was not money, they couldn't afford it. It was the kindly little gestures that sing in the soul forever. A tradition in the Fair Valley SD, Glenbow, Manitoba, was to honor the teacher at the end of the school term by presenting her with a wild orchid. A couple of the older students made their precarious way down into the nearby tamarack swamp. There, in the heart of the luxuriant wilderness, grew the orchids, fresh, dainty, and so lovely. The youngsters brought the orchid directly to the teacher's desk at the last recess. No speeches were ever made. The orchid itself conveyed the sentiment that was overflowing in the hearts of the children, nor was any reply ever given. The 2 or 3 tears that the young teacher brushed away from her brimming eyes meant more than any thank you speech possibly could. An excerpt from The Little White Schoolhouse by John C. Cherish and published by Western producer Prairie Books. And this from Table Talk by Martin Buxbaum, and I quote, Dr. William L. Stidger sat down and wrote a letter of thanks to a school teacher for having given him so much encouragement when he had been in her class 30 years before. The following week he received an answer, written in a very shaky hand. The letter read, My dear Willie, I want you to know what your note meant to me. I am an old lady in my 80s, living alone in a small room, cooking my own meals, lonely and seeming like the last leaf on the tree. You will be interested to know, Willie, that I taught school for 50 years, and in all that time, yours is the first letter of appreciation I have ever received. It came on a cold blue morning and cheered my lonely heart as nothing has cheered me in many years. This is a letter to my children, written by Iris Hasselden. Thank you for the love you give and all the joy you've brought, for all the times when you were small and filled each waking thought, for all the laughter, smiles, and tears, the studying and stress, the memory of muddy boots, that special party dress, the days the house filled up with friends I never knew each name, the growing up, the leaving home, how quiet life became. The letters, cards, and photographs each play their special part. But thank you for the love we share, still growing in my heart. The words of Iris Hasselden. We do have so many reasons to be thankful, even during these uncertain times, and this so appropriate for the celebration. It's called Garden Meditations by the Reverend Max Coots, written in 1980 and featured in Chicken Soup for the Gardener's Soul. And I quote, Let us give thanks for a bounty of people, for children who are our second planting, and though they grow like weeds and the wind too soon blows them all away, may they forgive us our cultivation and fondly remember where their roots are. Let us give thanks for generous friends, with hearts and smiles as bright as their blossoms, for feisty friends as tart as apples, for continuous friends who, like scallions and cucumbers, keep reminding us that we've had them, for crotchety friends sour as rhubarb and as indestructible, for handsome friends who are as gorgeous as eggplants and as elegant as a row of corn, and the others as plain as potatoes and so good for you. For funny friends who are as silly as Brussels sprouts and as amusing as Jerusalem artichokes, and serious friends as unpretentious as cabbages, as subtle as summer squash, as persistent as parsley, as delightful as dill, as endless as zucchini, and who, like parsnips, can be counted on to see you through the winter. For old friends nodding like sunflowers in the evening time, and young friends coming on as fast as radishes. For loving friends who wind around us like tendrils and hold us despite our blights, wilts, and witherings. And finally, for those friends now gone, like gardens past that have been harvested, but who fed us in their time that we might have life together. The background music is from the hit TV series Lost. It accompanied the sequence that had Hurley handing out all the food he had found in the underground chamber. I thought it appropriate for our last segment in this webcast. Some years back, Ralph Schoenstein in McCall's had this to say about the holiday, and I quote, "Thanksgiving is my favorite holiday. At the heart of my feeling for Thanksgiving is a delight in how pure this holiday has remained. Thanksgiving is unpolluted by the kind of merchandising that has moved Christmas from the churches to the profit and loss sheets. Moreover, there is no pressure to celebrate Thanksgiving without having to refinance your mortgage. You simply all sit down to overeat in the afternoon, pretending that everyone loves turkey." End quote. And Lynn Bertrand in Family Fun added to the sentiments, "I once thought it odd my family insisted on taking a picture of the Thanksgiving table. As far as I could tell, ours looked like almost every other one in town, sagging under the weight of soon-to-be blessed turkey and surrounded by hungry relatives. Every year, one resolute family member, ignoring our pleas to let us start, would climb onto a chair with a camera. Thanks to these photos, I have a record of Thanksgivings past and an understanding of why we continue the tradition. We get dressed up. We haul out the china. We light the candles. It's our family at its best." End quote. And Henry Beadle Howe with the last words before you ask for another helping of turkey and all the trimmings. "No stranger could ever mistake the Thanksgiving dinner for any other. Not with that array of vegetables, the heirloom china, the communing of past and present." End quote. I hope you've had the opportunity to share your table with family and friends, continuing your own traditions. At my table, we take a moment or two to remember those who are here, but only in spirit. We also take a moment to remember those who, for reasons of distance and commitments, cannot be at our table. I also hope that throughout this program, you found even more reasons to be thankful for the bounty that is your life. From my family to yours, I hope you have a wonderful Thanksgiving. And thank you for your continued support. Good night, sweet dreams. I'm Don Jackson.